Check out our streaming schedule for this week. We stream every single day on this channel talking about all things sports history, and now with college basketball season really getting in the swing of things, we are doing a lot of college basketball streams, commentating the action as we get one step closer to March Madness. So join me every night as we call the best of college basketball. And now, on with our feature presentation. I want to give you a hypothetical scenario. Suppose you are a team in the American Hockey League, as in a minor league. You're trying to do everything in your power to increase the attendance of your team and get as many people into the arena as possible. So you decide that it's a good idea to schedule a hockey game for the third Sunday in February right in the middle of the day. The only problem? Said hockey game goes directly up against the gold medal match for the Winter Olympics, where the United States is playing Canada. This seems like it would be a really bad idea to do, right? Fans have the option to choose between two hockey games, with one of them being the championship, where the entire country is going to shut down to watch, and the other one being a regular season game for a team in this league right here, a minor league. I don't think it's going to come as a surprise that most people are going to pick the Olympic action. It's like asking people, assuming the price is the same and the venue is in the same city, whether they would go to a Taylor Swift concert or a Taylor Swift cover band concert. You're not choosing the inferior option when they are orders of magnitude apart. It just doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. And speaking of things that don't make sense, if you like learning more about weird and wacky things in NFL and in Super Bowl history that don't seem to make a ton of sense, then this is the place for you. Because we talk about all things NFL history all the time with a new video and a new live stream every single day. So if you like that sort of stuff, be sure to hit that like button down below, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single video that we post on the channel. Thanks in advance for your support as we try and hit 70,000 subscribers. Well, I bring that up because this game right here is Super Bowl 39. I think we can all agree that this is the biggest football game of the year. The Super Bowl basically trumps everything else from a football standpoint. So what if I said that some other football team thought that it was a good idea to, among other things, go up against the freaking Super Bowl? Another football team against the Super Bowl. Spoiler alert, it went about as well as you think. Because to open up the 2005 season, that's exactly what the Arizona Rattlers of the Arena Football League decided to do. And the results were nothing short of disastrous. Because this is the story behind what might just be, considering the circumstances, the dumbest counter-programming in the history of the Super Bowl. Before I talk about the actual incident in question involving the Rattlers, we need some context to understand the bigger, more important football game that was taking place that day. It's February 6, 2005, and we head down to Jacksonville for the championship game, Super Bowl 39, between the New England Patriots and the Philadelphia Eagles. If the Patriots win, it cements themselves as one of the greatest dynasties in football history, with the team having won 3 out of the last 4 championships. If the Eagles win, it gives them their first Super Bowl title in franchise history, breaking a championship drought spanning more than 4.5 decades. Of course, we know how this game turned out, as the Patriots ended up taking it by a final score of 24-21, thanks to 2 touchdown passes by Tom Brady and a 133-yard outing by Deion Branch, who would go on and win MVP of the game. Even though the game was tied at the end of each of the first 3 quarters, 10 points by the Patriots to start the 4th quarter, combined with some of the worst clock management you're ever going to see in your life by the Eagles, ended up being the difference and giving the Patriots their 3rd Super Bowl in franchise history, cementing Bill Belichick as one of the greatest coaches in the history of the sport, and truly cementing the Patriots as the evil empire. However, that wasn't the only football game that was supposed to take place that day in the United States, because amazingly enough, there was another one. And that game involved this team right here, the Arizona Rattlers of the Arena Football League. In 2005, the AFL made the decision that they were going to start the season during the week between the conference championships and the Super Bowl, with NBC wanting to capitalize on their ambitious television deal after they lost the rights to the NFL and their previous attempt at spring football with the XFL went up in smoke. Absolutely bold strategy to start your football season in the middle of another league's football season, before viewers get a chance to feel as though they miss football, but I digress. The point is that the league was starting on Friday, January 28th, meaning that week 2 was going to be the week of the Super Bowl. Interesting business decision, but not a huge deal, provided that you don't interfere with the Super Bowl. As long as you play the game on different days, or play them early enough on Super Bowl Sunday where this wouldn't be a conflict in the slightest bit, it's no big deal. And to be fair to the Arena Football League, they weren't stupid, and they knew just that. Of the 8 games on the docket for week 2, 2 of them were on Friday, 2 of them were on Saturday, and 3 of them were early enough on Sunday where this was not going to be an issue. Almost like a traditional NBA or NHL game that takes place on that day. The Austin Wranglers and Tampa Bay Storm played at noon Eastern Time, while the Philadelphia Soul and Chicago Rush played each other at 1 o'clock Eastern, and the Dallas Desperados and the New York Dragons played at 1 o'clock Eastern. The typical AFL game, for those who don't know, considering how the clock rules work, is somewhere in the ballpark of 2 hours and 30 minutes. This means that, in the absolute worst case scenario, for anyone who wanted to watch an AFL game that Sunday that started at 1 o'clock, it'd be done by 3:30, 3 hours before the Super Bowl was going to kick off. That's plenty of time to leave the arena and do what you have to do and make it back to your home for the game. No issues so far. Except for the fact that I only mentioned 7 games. The 8th game? Oh god. The 8th game involving the team you've been watching this whole time. Let's talk about the Arizona Rattlers. Because the Rattlers, for some genius reason, had the idea to open up their season at home on Super Bowl Sunday, with the game starting at 1 o'clock local time. If you don't know how time zones work, that's 3 o'clock Eastern, meaning that this football game would be ending sometime around 5:30 or 5:40, not even an hour before the kickoff of the Super Bowl. From the end of the game, fans would have 2 options. Option 1, stay around and watch the game in the arena on the video board, meaning that if they want to eat or drink anything, they have to buy overpriced concessions, which sounds exactly how I would want to spend a Super Bowl if I'm not going to be at the game. Or option 2, go home, meaning that, considering the traffic and parking situation and whatnot, you'd be pushing it to get back in time for kickoff, depending on where you live. At least with the other arena football games that were on that day, there was no conflict. The only debate was whether you wanted to stay home and watch a ton of pregame coverage or not. But here, oh, there absolutely is debate. You might say that you're not trying to compete against the Super Bowl because the game will be over beforehand, but you are absolutely competing against the Super Bowl. Make no mistake about it. However, the Rattlers seem to be fine with this idea. Despite the fact that they were a football team going up against the biggest football game of the year, they had no issues. Said General Manager Gene Nuno about this idea, which was entirely their own doing, I think it's going to be great. We'll try to have a Super Bowl gala at the arena. We've talked about a lot of things. We could give our fans an opportunity to watch the Super Bowl on our new arena scoreboard, which is spectacular. First off, the scoreboard was not that spectacular. I've seen it before. It was really not that good. But I love how the draw for this is watch the game on our scoreboard and marvel at it. You know when people are going to be watching the scoreboard? That's right. During the freaking arena football game that you just played, the novelty would have more than worn off by that point. And I'm sure that sounds like a pleasant experience. Stay after the game, spend hours upon hours at the arena without seeing any sunlight, pay for concessions, and watch the game while looking up the entire time if you're in the 100 level, as if you were in the first row of a movie theater. And you can't even recline in your seats, you can't lay down on a couch, you're in pretty uncomfy seats. I mean, this is delusional on so many levels. You not only expect a good crowd for the game, but to make it worthwhile to all the employees inside the arena, you expect a good amount of people to stay afterwards, even though it doesn't seem worth it, no matter how you want to slice it. And making matters even worse is the fact that this team right here is based in Arizona, so it's not as if you're just competing against the Super Bowl. you're also competing against the FBR Open, otherwise known today as the Waste Management Open. You know this event. It's the rowdiest event on the entire PGA Tour calendar, and tens of thousands of people attend this every single year, trying to get a spot on the 17th hole in the stadium. Waste Management is an institution in Arizona, even on Super Bowl Sunday. So if you're the Rattlers, and you're this team right here, you're not just competing with the biggest game in the country, but you're competing with the biggest annual sporting event in the entire state. You really think you're going to win? You're going to lose the football crowd who wants to watch the Super Bowl for free from the comfort of their own home or whatever bar they frequent, or you're going to lose the live sports crowd who wants to go to Waste Management. The amount of people, when given the choice between attending one of those free events, is insanely small. It's like asking people whether they would rather win $1 million, find true love, or stub their toe running full speed into a table. The amount of people picking the stubbing of the toe option is going to be minuscule. Which is why it's going to come as no surprise that this team right here that you've been watching this whole time, the Arizona Rattlers, had to quickly backpedal. After being flooded with calls from season ticket holders and other people about how insane and crazy they were to be doing this, and to be playing the game on Super Bowl Sunday at the same time as the final round of the FBR Open, and cutting it awfully close to kickoff of the most important football game of the season, they changed their plans and moved their home opener from February 6th at 1 o'clock local time, or 3.5 hours before kickoff of Super Bowl 39, to Thursday night on February 3rd. Unlike the Detroit Red Wings back in the 70s, which you can learn more about by clicking the card in the upper right corner, they at least gave ample notice about the switch, making it 3 weeks after the original schedule came out. And seeing as the game drew over 10,000 spectators, which for most teams, anything in the 5-figure mark is pretty good, I'm going to say that they made the right call in doing this, even though they lost the game by a final score of 51-40, in a game that there is, unfortunately, no footage of. At least in this case, Rattler fans were upset about the loss, and not the loss compounded with having to miss the Super Bowl and having to miss the final round of the FBR Open. Minimize the damages at least. I should note that the AFL did this early kickoff time for one more season, as in 2006, the AFL and NBC did the same exact thing, where they started the season during the week in between the conference championships and the Super Bowl. This meant that there were 2 games on Super Bowl Sunday, the day of Super Bowl 40. However, both of those games started at 1 o'clock Eastern Time and were done by 3:30. So again, no issues there. They were able to be done with the game about 3 hours before kickoff of the Super Bowl. I can't say the same for the original idea involving the Arizona Rattlers back in 2005. Seriously, who the heck thought this was a good idea, especially with Waste Management in there at the same exact time? Like, what was the logic behind this? Genius move. I would say that this final section applies as life advice to the AFL, but they've got bigger issues to worry about considering how much of a catastrophe this past season was. But for the United Football League, or any other upstart league, since that starts around the same time, if there are any executives watching this video for some reason, do not, under any circumstances, start the season where you'll be playing on Super Bowl Sunday and potentially going up against the Super Bowl. If there are 2 options, and one of them is watching the Super Bowl on TV, and the other is going to the Waste Management Open and being a part of the rowdiest spectacle in golf, and both are viable options, and you're trying to create a third option that pales in comparison to both by a lot and has less significance and tries to get the same audience, I promise you, it's not going to work out for you. It's just not. Because in 2005, after getting a ton of backlash for this insane proposal, and unsurprisingly so I might add, the Arizona Rattlers were rattled. Be sure to like and subscribe if you have not done so already, as it helps the channel out a lot, and check out my other channels, JG8 for the history of college football, JG7 for the history of baseball, and JG9 News, where we talk about all things happening in the NFL. Join me every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, where we'll play live NFL trivia for cash prizes. And make sure to join me live, as we're on stream just about every single day. And thanks to all our Patreon members and our YouTube members for helping out the channel. See how you become a member and show your support financially in the description down below.